that deep. But I will protect you, no matter the cost.
A billionaire CEO rescues twin babies from the sea, but the shocking truth about who they are could destroy his empire. Imagine this: you're a billionaire, enjoying a peaceful jet ski ride across the ocean, when suddenly you hear the faint cries of babies. You rush closer and discover not one, but two twin babies floating helplessly in the sea. Who left them there? Why are they being hunted? And what shocking truth connects them to your own life? This story will leave you breathless till the very end. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next twist in our Billionaire series. And if this story shocks you, don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who loves a good mystery. The morning sun was rising over the glittering coastline of Lagos, Nigeria, casting golden reflections across the Atlantic waters. The bustling city behind the serene ocean seemed like a world apart, where luxury and danger coexisted in a fragile balance. Emeka Okafor, one of Nigeria's most powerful billionaires, sped across the waves on his sleek, jet-black Yamaha jet ski. At 52, he was a commanding figure. Tall, fit, dark-skinned, with eyes that had seen both power and betrayal. His designer sunglasses reflected the sunlight, and his casual yet expensive attire hinted at wealth that could buy anything, except perhaps the peace he quietly sought. Emeka had always loved the solitude of the open water. Away from boardrooms, parties, and endless calls, the ocean offered him clarity. As he carved through the waves, the wind whipping against his face, he felt a rare sense of freedom. The coastline was alive with fishermen, casting nets, early morning joggers on the boardwalk, and distant yacht parties adding glimmers of luxury. Yet beneath the routine beauty, an unusual stillness settled over a stretch of the sea ahead. He leaned forward, scanning the horizon. Something was off. There was a faint, almost imperceptible sound. At first, he thought it was the distant cry of a gull or the hum of the city. But it grew sharper, unmistakably human. Crying. A soft, desperate wail carried across the waves, making Emeka instinctively slow down. His heart thumped, a mixture of curiosity and concern rising in him. Then he saw it. A small basket, bobbing precariously atop the swells, barely visible against the choppy water. Inside were two tiny figures, wriggling, drenched, and shivering, their little faces streaked with tears and salt water. One was a girl, the other a boy. Both no older than a year, dark-skinned like the people around him, but so small and vulnerable. The realization hit him like a wave crashing against the jet ski. Somebody had left them here, alone in the open sea. Emeka's pulse quickened. He slowed the jet ski, maneuvering carefully. Each movement was calculated. One wrong motion could tip the basket or worse. His mind raced. Who would do such a thing? Why here? And why now? The baby's cries were frantic, echoing across the empty waters. One of the twins reached up with tiny fists, their eyes wide, searching for a comforting presence. With practiced skill, Emeka brought the jet ski alongside the floating basket. He extended a hand, lifting the girl first, then the boy, wrapping them in the warm, dry towels he always carried for emergencies. Their tiny bodies shook, and he could feel their little hearts beating against his chest, rapid and fragile. "It's okay, he whispered, though he barely knew who he was talking to, the children or perhaps himself, reassuring that this moment, this impossible moment, could be survived. For the first time in years, Emeka felt a surge of pure, unfiltered emotion. The icy walls of wealth and power he had built around himself seemed to crack. Responsibility, fear, and a strange, tender protectiveness coursed through him. He looked around, scanning the waters. No boat in sight. No adult in the vicinity. Only the endless waves and the cries of two helpless infants. He mounted the jet ski again, clutching the babies carefully against his chest. Every movement was deliberate. Each wave threatened to knock him off balance, but he focused entirely on keeping them safe. In that moment, the world narrowed down to the three of them, Emeka and the tiny lives that had been entrusted to him by some mysterious hand of fate. As he sped back toward the shoreline, the sun climbed higher, glinting off the waves, turning the water into a sea of molten gold. Lagos loomed ahead, vast and sprawling, full of life, full of secrets. Emeka's mind raced with questions, but one thought stood out above all. He would not let anything happen to them. Not today. Not ever. Little did he know, this discovery was just the beginning. The floating basket, the crying twins, and the solitary ride across the ocean would unravel a story far bigger than any fortune, any deal, or any secret he had ever known. And somewhere, hidden in the bustling streets and shadowy corners of Lagos, someone was watching, waiting, and planning the next move. The roar of the jet ski faded as Emeka finally reached a quiet cove near the Lagos shoreline, a place he often retreated to when he wanted privacy. The twin babies, still trembling and shivering in his arms, cried softly now, their initial panic slowly giving way to exhaustion. He carefully laid them on the soft towels he had spread on the deck of his luxury yacht, which he had anchored nearby. Emeka's hands were steady, but his mind raced. Who could abandon children in the middle of the Atlantic? And why here, in one of the busiest coastal cities in Africa? The questions pressed against him like waves, but he had no time to linger in uncertainty. The first priority was care. He stripped his own jacket and wrapped it around the twins, letting the warmth of his body and the soft fabric provide comfort. Their tiny hands clutched at him, and for the first time, Emeka felt a piercing, almost unbearable tenderness. He had never imagined himself in a role like this: protector, caregiver, savior. The corporate empires, the boardrooms, and the wealth had never demanded anything like this. Yet, here he was, holding two lives that now depended entirely on him. The girl, delicate and alert, looked up at him with eyes that seemed far older than her months. Her brother, more restless, kept reaching toward the horizon, as if sensing the vast unknown that had brought them here. Emeka murmured softly, "You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you." Inside the yacht, he had already arranged for a temporary nursery space. Blankets, heated incubators, bottles, and even a pediatric kit. Nurses arrived quickly, courtesy of his private medical team. They checked the twins meticulously, no injuries, no signs of long-term neglect, just the effects of exposure to the sea. Emeka's relief was palpable, but it was mingled with an unshakable unease. He studied the basket again, now laid out on the polished deck. Oddities caught his eye, a small embroidered symbol on one corner of the woven reeds, almost like a signature. He had seen many signs in his travels, in deals, in high society, but this one was unfamiliar. Was it a mark of the family or the syndicate? Emeka decided he needed help, someone who could navigate the murky waters of Lagos's underworld, someone sharp, discreet, and trustworthy. His call went out immediately to Te Adebola, a private investigator with a reputation for solving the unsolvable. Te arrived within the hour, sharp-dressed, mid-30s, his dark eyes analyzing every detail of the yacht, the basket, and the children. "Te," Emeka said, his voice calm but firm. "These children were left at sea. I don't know why or by whom, but I need answers, and I need them before anyone else finds out they exist." Te crouched near the basket, examining it closely. "This wasn't random," he said, tracing the embroidered symbol with a gloved finger. "Whoever did this wanted them found, or maybe hidden in plain sight." Emeka's mind whirred. He had always been a man in control, of finances, of property, of people. But these children, so small, so vulnerable, had suddenly made him powerless in the most profound way. His instincts screamed protection, yet his analytical mind demanded investigation. The first hours turned into a meticulous inspection. Every detail of the basket, the blankets, even the water they had floated in, was documented. Te suggested that the symbol might be a clue, perhaps tied to a local crime syndicate or an influential family. Emeka's gut told him it was something deeper, something personal. As night fell, Emeka sat beside the twins, the gentle rocking of the yacht soothing them. He looked at the horizon, where city lights sparkled like a constellation of ambition and danger. Somewhere out there, in the shadows of Lagos, their past awaited them, and whatever secrets those waters had swallowed, they had now found a champion in him. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Tay stepped in, holding a small folder. "I've already started pulling records. We'll look into abandoned vessels, missing children reports, and local syndicates known for trafficking. But sir, I have a feeling these twins' story isn't ordinary." Emeka's jaw tightened. Ordinary had never been his life, but these children had now intertwined their fate with his, and he knew instinctively that what started as a rescue would become a battle far larger than the waves that brought them together. As he gazed down at their sleeping faces, he whispered almost to himself, "I don't know who left you, but I will find out, and I will protect you, no matter what it takes." And so, the first night fell over Lagos. The city continued its relentless rhythm, oblivious to the secret floating in its waters. But somewhere in the distance, eyes watched, schemes formed, and the storm of truth began quietly building. By dawn, the Lagos skyline began to glow with soft pinks and golds, reflecting off the waters where Emeka's jet ski had brought him. The twins, now wrapped snugly in warm blankets, were nestled in the makeshift nursery he had arranged in his mansion. The sprawling estate overlooked the Atlantic, a fortress of wealth and power, yet today it felt less like a home and more like a sanctuary for these fragile lives. Emeka moved through the grand halls silently, carrying one of the babies in his arms, while the other was placed safely with a nurse. The mansion was vast, floor-to-ceiling windows, polished marble floors, priceless artworks lining the walls. But in the quiet of the morning, every luxury seemed hollow compared to the tiny heartbeat pressed against his chest. His mind refused to settle. Questions swirled like the winds over the coastline. Who would abandon children in the sea? Why the twins? And why now? Tay Adebola, already on site, began a meticulous examination of the belongings that had come with the twins. The basket, the blankets, and even the small toys were scrutinized. Tay's eyes narrowed as he noted unusual details, symbols embroidered in thread, faint watermarks on the blankets, and the peculiar sturdiness of the basket that suggested professional craftsmanship rather than an ordinary container. "This wasn't a random act," Tay murmured, jotting down notes. The person who left them wanted someone to find them, or they wanted to make sure they were protected until the right eyes saw them. Emeka frowned. The right eyes? His gaze drifted toward the horizon as if the city beyond could hold answers. Lagos was a city of secrets, a maze of ambition and hidden power. Somewhere within its sprawling streets and glittering high-rises lay the story of these children. As the morning progressed, Emeka tried to create normalcy for the twins. He fed them, sang soft lullabies, and even attempted a smile to ease the tension. Yet every small sound, a creaking door, a distant horn, a shadow crossing the garden, made him tense. His instincts, honed over decades of business battles, screamed that danger was closer than it appeared. Tay returned with early reports from local maritime records, missing child notices, and abandoned vessel logs. Nothing matched the twins exactly, but subtle patterns emerged. He pointed to a document detailing small, unregistered boats disappearing near the Lagos coast, often linked to underground networks known for trafficking children or hiding them from wealthy families. Emeka's jaw tightened. So this is bigger than a simple abandonment? His thoughts drifted to his own family, the legacy he had built, and the dark possibilities of a syndicate capable of such acts. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. Protecting the twins was no longer a personal choice, it was a matter of life and death. Later, alone in his study, Emeka examined the embroidered symbol on the basket again. It was a delicate, intricate pattern, something that seemed almost ceremonial. He couldn't place it, yet something about it tugged at a memory. Faint whispers of old family rivalries, past disputes, names spoken in hushed tones during high-profile meetings he had attended years ago. He picked up the phone and called an old family friend, someone connected to Nigeria's history of powerful families and secret legacies. "I need answers," he said, "and I need them quietly. These children, they're important. As the sun climbed higher, the city came alive in its usual rhythm, oblivious to the unfolding mystery within the mansion walls. Yet outside, hidden in plain sight, eyes watched. Shadows moved in alleys and on rooftops. Someone had left the twins to be found, yes, but someone else was already plotting the next step. Emeka sat beside the twins again, running his hand gently over their heads. "You didn't deserve this," he whispered, "but I promise I won't let anything happen to you." Unseen by him, a message pinged silently on Tay's encrypted phone, a single line of text with coordinates and a symbol matching the basket. It was the first real lead, a thread to pull in the vast tapestry of secrets that had brought these children to the ocean that morning. And somewhere in the shadows of Lagos, a figure smiled faintly, knowing that the game had only just begun. The mansion hummed with quiet urgency. Even in its grand halls, every footstep, every whispered conversation carried the weight of impending danger. Emeka sat in his study, the two infants sleeping soundly in their nursery, and stared at the symbols on the basket one more time. He had called in every possible resource, old contacts, private investigators, and maritime experts. But the threads of this mystery were complex, and the shadows that had abandoned the twins were already moving. Tay Adebola paced the study, scanning through satellite images, maritime logs, and unregistered boat activity near the Lagos coastline. He was meticulous, precise, a man who could untangle secrets hidden in plain sight. "Sir," he said, "I've cross-referenced the patterns of abandoned vessels with known syndicate activity. These children, their arrival wasn't an accident. They were placed to be discovered by someone specific, someone powerful, capable of protecting them until now." Emeka ran a hand through his hair, tension etched deep across his face. "So, you're saying someone trusted me, or perhaps wants me involved?" Tay nodded grimly. "Exactly. And that same someone or some organization will likely follow up. They'll test you, probe your weaknesses. You need to be ready, not just to care for them, but to protect them." The first real threat arrived just hours later. A shadowy figure was spotted near the mansion gates, lingering too long, vanishing as soon as security personnel approached. Cameras picked up a sleek black SUV that circled the estate multiple times. Tay, watching the feed, narrowed his eyes. This is no ordinary stalker. This is reconnaissance. Someone wants to know exactly who is inside, what resources we have, and how we react. Emeka's mind raced. In the boardrooms of Nigeria, he had faced corporate sharks, political adversaries, and rivals attempting to dismantle his empire. But this was different. These were shadows moving unseen, targeting two innocents who had done nothing but survive. He walked to the nursery, the twins cooing softly as he approached. Their trust was fragile, but palpable. "I won't let them hurt you," he whispered. And he knew the promise was not just to them, it was to himself, to his own sense of responsibility, and perhaps to the destiny that had brought them together. Tay returned with more information. The embroidered symbol on the basket matched an obscure lineage connected to Lagos's powerful families, some of which were rumored to have long-standing conflicts with criminal networks. One line of research suggested that a rival syndicate had been trying to intercept children from this lineage for decades. "Sir," Tay said, "these twins may be the key to a larger game. If certain factions find out who they are, they could become leverage or targets." Thanks for watching, and they witter Saul beating sows. Emeka clenched his jaw, feeling the familiar surge of resolve. This was no longer just a rescue, it was a war to protect the innocent. Every decision mattered. Every move could mean life or death for the two tiny lives in his care. By evening, Lagos's city lights sparkled like a constellation of ambition and danger, while inside the mansion, preparations were underway. Security upgrades, encrypted communications, and contingency plans filled the rooms. Yet, despite the technological safeguards, the true protection would come from strategy, courage, and the instincts Emeka had honed through decades of navigating high-stakes battles, corporate and personal. As night settled, Tay pulled Emeka aside. "I've identified potential syndicate enforcers who operate near the coast. They're likely tracking the same clues that led you to the twins." If they get too close, we'll need to act fast. This could escalate into open confrontation sooner than expected. Emeka looked out toward the ocean. Waves reflecting the moonlight, the same waters that had delivered the twins into his life. "Then we prepare," he said quietly. "I won't let anyone take them from me, no matter what." Unseen, in a shadowed alley not far from the mansion, a figure made a silent call. "They found the children," a voice whispered, tension rising in every syllable. "And he's already taking steps. Make sure the next move is unavoidable." The game was on. Lagos, with all its glitter and grime, would bear witness to a battle that no one had seen coming. One that started with 2 innocent lives adrift in the sea and now threatened to engulf an empire. The Lagos skyline glimmered with neon and golden reflections as night deepened, but inside Emeka's mansion, the atmosphere was anything but serene. Taya Debola had spent the day piecing together subtle clues from the basket, the embroidered symbol, and patterns of unregistered vessels along the coastline. Each detail painted a chilling picture. The twins were part of a larger, dangerous game. "They're not random," Tay said, his voice low, tense. "These children were left to be found, but only by someone who could protect them. Whoever orchestrated this knows power, knows wealth, and they know you." Emeka's jaw tightened. He had faced boardroom battles, political rivals, and public scandals, but this was something different. This was invisible, personal, and deadly. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down harder than any corporate deal ever had. Suddenly, an alert from the mansion's security system caught their attention. Cameras at the north gate showed a black SUV slowly circling the estate. Its tinted windows reflected the moonlight, hiding the faces inside, but the precision of the movements was unmistakable. Reconnaissance. Tay swore under his breath. "They're testing us. Watching patterns. Waiting for a weakness." Emeka's hands clenched into fists. "Then we show them none." They quickly moved the twins to a more secure room in the mansion. Surveillance monitors displayed multiple locations: the estate perimeter, the driveway, and even nearby alleys. Every shadow became a potential threat. Emeka, usually calm and calculated, now felt a surge of protective ferocity. He was no longer just a billionaire, he was a guardian, responsible for the survival of these 2 innocent lives. Hours later, Tay discovered a breakthrough. "The symbol on the basket," he explained, pointing at the screen, "matches a lineage tied to an old family feud. Families who were once wealthy, but whose children were targeted by syndicates for leverage and profit. The twins may be heirs, or at least significant pawns in their eyes." Emeka felt a chill. The babies in his care, swaddled and sleeping peacefully, were not just orphans, they were priceless pieces in a deadly puzzle. "Then we need to find the ones who left them here," he said, voice low but firm. "And we need to stop them before they come back for the others, or for the twins." The first confrontation came before sunrise. Shadows moved outside the perimeter walls, 2 figures attempting to breach the mansion. The motion sensors triggered silent alarms, and Tay and the security team sprang into action. Emeka, gripping a flashlight in one hand, moved to a vantage point overlooking the approach. The intruders were skilled, but unprepared for the mansion's advanced defenses. Electric gates locked down, cameras tracked their movements, and a rapid alert brought additional guards to strategic positions. Yet Emeka knew that this was only a testing ground. These were scouts, assessing weaknesses. One of the intruders noticed Emeka in the shadows. A flash of recognition, a silent exchange of intent, and then the chase began across the mansion's grounds. Emeka, unarmed but swift, used the environment to his advantage. Shadows, stairways, and balcony vantage points to keep the intruders at bay while avoiding direct confrontation. Inside, Teye coordinated the security team, ensuring that the twins remained undisturbed. The mansion, usually a place of opulence and tranquility, had transformed into a fortress of tension and strategy. Finally, the intruders retreated, but the message was clear. They knew where the twins were, and they would return stronger. Emeka exhaled slowly, heart pounding, as he walked back to the nursery. The babies stirred, sensing the tension in the air, and he whispered, "It's okay. You're safe with me. For now." But deep down, he knew that the danger was far from over. Lagos was a city of hidden power and silent threats. The twins' past, their lineage, and the syndicate's shadowy intentions were just the beginning. And as the first light of dawn crept over the Atlantic, Emeka realized the battle ahead would test him in ways he had never imagined physically, emotionally, and morally. Somewhere in the distance, hidden behind darkened windows of a high-rise, a figure observed the mansion through binoculars. A faint smirk appeared as they spoke into a secure line. They're aware now. Good. Let's see how far he'll go to protect them. And when he falters, the game truly begins. The morning after the failed intrusion, the mansion was cloaked in a tense quiet. Emeka sat in his study, twins cradled gently in his arms, staring out at the glimmering waters of the Atlantic. The previous night's events had rattled him, but his resolve was stronger than ever. Protecting these children was no longer optional, it was destiny. Tay Adebola entered. His expression a mixture of concern and revelation. "Sir," he said, holding up a folder, "we've traced some old family records, lineage charts, and connections to a wealthy family that disappeared from public view decades ago. There's something you need to see." Emeka took the folder, his eyes scanning the documents rapidly. Photos, birth records, and letters, an unmistakable connection emerged. His breath caught in his throat. The twins, they were not random victims. They were his niece and nephew, children of his estranged late brother, whose family had been embroiled in a bitter feud with rival syndicates. His mind raced back to memories long buried, whispers of betrayal, family secrets hidden behind closed doors, and threats made decades ago that had seemed irrelevant at the time. But now, standing before him were the living proof of that history. The twins were the heirs of a legacy that had been stolen, scattered, and hunted for years. Tay watched Emeka carefully. This explains why the basket was so carefully placed, and why it had that symbol. The syndicate knows their lineage. They want leverage or control. And they underestimated one thing: you would find them, and you would protect them. Emeka's jaw tightened. So this is more than just survival. This is a message. The twins are targets, not just children lost at sea. His eyes softened as he looked down at their innocent faces. And now I understand why. Why fate brought them to me. Suddenly, a soft chime on Tay's phone broke the silence. A series of images appeared on the screen, security footage from a private investigator working along the Lagos coast. Two men, clearly experienced enforcers, had been seen near the very spot where the twins were discovered. Their movements were deliberate, their intent clear. They were looking for the children, tracking them even before they were rescued. Emeka's heart pounded. This was no longer a simple act of protection. It was a war over family, legacy, and survival. And the stakes had just skyrocketed. Determined, Emeka began formulating a plan. The mansion's defenses were strong, but this required more than technology. It required strategy, foresight, and cunning. He would have to anticipate every move the syndicate might take. He would have to be smarter, faster, and braver than he had ever been. That evening, as he held the twins close, a memory surfaced: a letter from his late brother, written years before the children were born. It contained cryptic warnings about enemies, hidden alliances, and the importance of keeping the children safe. Emeka now realized the full weight of responsibility that had been passed to him. In the shadows outside the mansion, surveillance cameras caught movement. The same black SUV from the previous night had returned, circling slowly. A figure stepped out, briefly illuminated by the moonlight, scanning the estate. Then, almost imperceptibly, they vanished into the night. Back inside, Emeka whispered to the twins, "I don't know who left you or why, but I promise you, nothing will harm you. You are mine now. And I will fight with everything I have." Tay placed a hand on his shoulder, solemn. "Sir, the truth is finally clear. The twins' identity changes everything. They are more than children, they are a legacy. And the people hunting them, they will stop at nothing. Thanks for watching, and it come Halden Axity Decede. And to des to the Mady Sem side, as no love to CDA." Emeka's gaze hardened, determination etched in every line of his face. The journey ahead was dangerous, filled with secrets, betrayal, and shadows. But for the first time in years, he felt alive in a way money or power had never given him. These two children were his responsibility, his family, and the key to a story that was only just beginning. And somewhere in Lagos, the syndicate watched, their plans adapting. They knew now that the man protecting the twins was no ordinary billionaire. He was a force, and they would soon learn just how far he could go. The Lagos night was alive with the hum of traffic, distant sirens, and the occasional roar of the ocean against the shore. But inside Emeka's mansion, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Ever since the revelation of the twins' true identity, every shadow, every whisper of movement, and every blinking security light felt like a signal of impending danger. Tay Adebola was monitoring multiple screens, analyzing the live feeds from the mansion's perimeter cameras. "Sir," he said, eyes scanning the monitors. "They're getting closer." Not just scouts this time, they've brought professional enforcers. Their movements are precise, calculated. They know what they're after. Emeka's jaw clenched. The twins were asleep in the nursery, oblivious to the looming threat. He felt a surge of protective instinct unlike anything he had experienced. This was no longer about business deals or power. This was about life itself. Suddenly, Tay pointed at one of the screens. A black SUV moved silently through the shadows, its occupants scanning the perimeter. Within seconds, another vehicle appeared on the adjacent street, coordinating with the first. The intruders were attempting a pincer maneuver, a methodical, tactical approach designed to breach the estate simultaneously. Emeka took a deep breath. "Get the twins to the inner safe room. We'll handle this." The mansion's staff, briefed and ready, moved the twins through hidden corridors to a fortified inner suite, a place designed for emergencies. Emeka armed himself with nothing but determination, intuition, and the knowledge of the estate's layout. Every corridor, staircase, and balcony was mapped in his mind, each a potential advantage against the approaching danger. Outside, the enforcers made their move. They scaled walls, attempted to bypass sensors, and used cutting-edge equipment to monitor the estate's movements. But Emeka was ready. Using shadows, high vantage points, and the mansion's defensive features, he intercepted the first wave, outmaneuvering them without direct confrontation. Tay coordinated from the control room, issuing instructions over secure channels. Two intruders on the west balcony. Redirect the automated defenses. "Emeka, you can intercept from the south wing." Adrenaline surged through him as he moved swiftly, silently, taking positions only an intimate knowledge of the mansion could allow. The chase was intense, every step bringing him closer to confrontation, every movement a delicate balance between stealth and aggression. One of the intruders spotted him and attempted a rush, but Emeka, anticipating the move, sidestepped, letting them stumble into a security trap. Alarms blared as reinforced doors sealed sections of the mansion. The intruders were skilled, but they were unprepared for a man who knew every inch of the terrain and whose stakes were immeasurably higher than theirs. Finally, the attackers retreated into the shadows, leaving behind evidence of their presence, footprints, discarded tools, and the unmistakable feeling that this was only the beginning. Emeka exhaled, tension coursing through his body. He had won this encounter, but the knowledge that the syndicate was watching, learning, and planning their next move kept him alert. Back in the safe room, he checked on the twins. They were unharmed, their small breaths steady and peaceful. Emeka knelt beside them, gently brushing their hair back from their faces. "You're safe for now," he whispered, "but we're going to need more than luck to keep it that way." Tay joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. They won't give up, and now they know you're serious. The next time they come, it will be a direct confrontation. We need a strategy, and we need it fast. Emeka's eyes hardened, resolve shining in the moonlight, streaming through the windows. Then we prepare. Every move, every precaution. I won't let them take these children. Not now, not ever. Outside the mansion, the city of Lagos continued its restless rhythm, unaware of the silent war unfolding within one of its grandest estates. And in the shadows, the syndicate observed, adapting their plans, waiting for the moment when Emeka's vigilance might falter. The stage was set for the next encounter, and one thing was certain: the battle for the twins had just escalated into a high-stakes war. The first light of dawn painted Lagos in hues of orange and gold, but inside Emeka's mansion, there was no rest. Overnight, the syndicate had regrouped, and their intentions had become unmistakably clear. They would stop at nothing to reclaim the twins. Emeka and Tay convened with the mansion's elite security team, mapping out every entry point, staircase, and corridor. Every camera, every sensor, every shadow could be a potential threat. But this time, Emeka would not wait for them to strike blindly. He planned to turn the mansion into a labyrinth, a trap that even the most skilled intruders could not navigate without falling into his calculated defenses. By mid-morning, the first wave arrived. A convoy of black SUVs approached the estate gates, engines silent, figures moving like shadows among the vehicles. Emeka, watching from a secure balcony, felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. The syndicate was precise, disciplined, and relentless, but they were stepping into his domain. The confrontation began with subtle chaos. As the SUVs reached the perimeter, automated defenses activated. Gates slammed shut, pressure-sensitive pathways lit up, and hidden security barriers shifted into place. Emeka moved like a shadow himself, guiding his team through the mansion, directing forces with calm precision. One of the intruders attempted a direct breach through the west wing, but Emeka anticipated their route. Using silent alarm triggers and tactical positioning, he intercepted them before they could reach the nursery. A quick, calculated maneuver disarmed them, forcing retreat into a corridor lined with reinforced steel doors. Meanwhile, Tay coordinated remotely, tracking movements through multiple camera feeds. "They're splitting into two groups," he said. "We have to isolate them." Emeka used the inner corridors to funnel them toward the containment points. Emeka nodded, moving swiftly. His instincts and strategic mind worked in perfect sync. Every step was deliberate, every action calculated to protect the twins while keeping the attackers under pressure. The mansion, once a serene palace, had become a chessboard, every move predicted, every opponent trapped. Suddenly, a figure broke free from the containment, sprinting toward the nursery. Emeka intercepted, their confrontation intense but controlled. He forced the intruder into a confined corridor, using leverage and momentum rather than brute strength. The intruder stumbled, allowing Emeka to secure him until backup arrived. From above, Tay coordinated the final phase. Security personnel moved with precision, capturing or driving back each enforcer attempting to infiltrate the mansion. The syndicate, formidable and experienced, found themselves outmaneuvered by a man who understood his home as intimately as the tides outside his estate. As the confrontation reached its climax, Emeka stood in the grand hall, overlooking the subdued intruders. His face was a mask of resolve and intensity. "If you think I will let them take these children," he said, voice cold and unwavering, "then you don't know me." The syndicate withdrew, leaving behind the eerie silence of defeat, but the message was unmistakable. This was far from over. They had witnessed Emeka's capabilities, his courage, and his unwillingness to yield. Back in the inner safe room, the twins slept peacefully, oblivious to the battle that had raged around them. Emeka gently stroked their hair, a mixture of relief and vigilance washing over him. "You're safe, for now," he whispered. "But we're only halfway through this fight, and I will never let them take you." Tay placed a reassuring hand on Emeka's shoulder. "Sir, you've held them safe, but next time they won't be so careless. They'll come stronger, smarter." Emeka's eyes hardened, staring out over the Lagos skyline. "Then we prepare. Every day, every hour, I will protect them, no matter what." Outside, the syndicate's leader observed from a distant rooftop, a calculating smirk on his face. He's strong, but no man can defend against everything. Soon, the real game begins. The mansion remained quiet, but the war had only intensified. Emeka had won the battle, but the war for the twins' safety, their legacy, and their future was far from over. And somewhere in the sprawling city of Lagos, shadows waited, plotting the next move. The mansion, bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon sun, finally exhaled. The echoes of alarms, footsteps, and confrontation had faded, leaving an almost serene calm. Emeka moved through the halls, the twins nestled securely in his arms, their tiny hands clinging to him, as though they sensed the safety he now offered. For the first time in days, Emeka allowed himself to breathe. The immediate danger had passed, the syndicate forced to retreat, and the mansion's defenses had held. Yet the weight of responsibility remained heavy on his shoulders. These children were not just innocents, they were heirs to a legacy, a link to a family history that had been fraught with betrayal, power struggles, and secrets long buried. He carried them to the garden terrace overlooking the Atlantic, the gentle sea breeze brushing against his face. The twins, soothed by the rhythm of the waves, cooed and reached out, their small fingers grasping at the folds of his jacket. Emeka knelt on the soft grass, laughing softly as the girl's tiny hand tickled his cheek and the boy giggled at the sound. Taya Debola approached quietly, observing the scene. "They seem comfortable with you," he said, a hint of a smile breaking his usual stoicism. Emeka looked down at the twins, a warmth filling his chest that he had never felt in the boardrooms or during high-profile negotiations. "They're family," he said simply. "And family, I protect at all costs." As the afternoon stretched into evening, Emeka began laying the foundation for a future with the twins. Nurseries were fully equipped, trusted caretakers were hired, and routines established to ensure both safety and comfort. Yet, he also knew that emotional connection was just as vital. Stories were read aloud in soft voices, lullabies hummed, and gentle laughter filled the halls for the first time in what felt like years. Meanwhile, subtle signs indicated that the syndicate's power had been weakened. Tay shared intelligence reports showing disarray among their enforcers, confusion over their failed attempts, and hints of internal strife. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless, a sign that strategy, courage, and preparation could triumph over even the most calculated threats. Yet, despite this calm, the city of Lagos remained vast and unpredictable. Somewhere in its shadows, the syndicate still lingered, nursing wounds and plotting their next move. Emeka knew that complete safety was an illusion, but the bond he shared with the twins had grown stronger than fear. He spent the evening walking along the terrace with the twins, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson. The ocean waves whispered promises of resilience and hope. He felt a profound sense of purpose. These children, found floating helplessly in the sea, had now become the center of his world. As night fell, Tay updated Emeka with the last intelligence for the day. "They've retreated. For now. But sir, this isn't over. The syndicate will regroup, and they will test us again." Emeka nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Then we remain vigilant. But tonight, we enjoy this peace. They are safe, and nothing matters more than that." The twins slept soundly, cocooned in warmth and safety, while Emeka stood nearby, vigilant yet at ease for the first time in days. For the first time, he understood that wealth, power, and influence were meaningless without love, protection, and family. And somewhere in the distant shadows of Lagos, the faintest hint of movement reminded him that the world beyond his mansion was still dangerous. But tonight at least, victory belonged to him, to the twins, and to the promise of a future they would share together. The mansion was quiet under the cloak of midnight, but Emeka felt no rest. Even with the twins asleep, every instinct screamed that danger lingered. Lagos's sprawling cityscape twinkled beyond the walls, a glittering expanse hiding secrets and threats. The syndicate had been pushed back, yes, but tonight, something felt different, ominous. Tay Adebola entered urgently, his face pale. "Sir, we intercepted a message. They've managed to uncover a hidden vulnerability. Someone inside is leaking information about the twins' location." Emeka froze, his heart sinking. Inside the very walls that had become a sanctuary, there might be betrayal. His mind raced through every employee, every contractor, every subtle interaction over the past weeks. And then it hit him a familiar feeling of betrayal that he had faced before in corporate battles, magnified 100-fold by the innocence at stake. Lock down the mansion, every corridor, every entry point. We find the leak tonight, Emeka commanded, his voice cold, resolute. Meanwhile, outside, shadows moved with calculated precision. The syndicate had returned not with scouts or enforcers, but with someone who knew the mansion intimately. Cameras flickered briefly, as if manipulated, and security systems wavered for seconds that felt like eternity. Emeka moved through the mansion like a storm, Tay at his side. They cornered a familiar face, an old confidant of Emeka, someone he had trusted implicitly. The realization was shocking. The leak was internal. The confidant's eyes held no remorse, only cold calculation. You think you can protect them forever? The figure sneered. The twins are not just children, they are power, and I will deliver them to those who deserve it. A tense confrontation erupted. Emeka, fueled by protective rage and adrenaline, used both strategy and brute force to subdue the betrayer. Every second was critical outside. The syndicate was coordinating, ready to exploit the chaos. Tay simultaneously managed to reinforce the mansion's defenses, isolating the threat and securing the twins. Once the betrayer was contained, Emeka rushed to the nursery. The twins were safe, but shaken, their innocent eyes wide as they sensed the tension. He held them close, whispering, "No one can touch you. Not while I'm here. I promise." Then, a chilling message appeared on Tay's secure line. "You may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. The true force is coming." Before Emeka could react, a series of explosions rocked the mansion's outer perimeter, not enough to harm the twins, but enough to signal that the syndicate had escalated to direct assault. Smoke, fire, and chaos blurred the night as security personnel scrambled to contain the attack. Emeka's eyes blazed with fury. This was no longer a mere defense, it was a declaration of war. Whoever had orchestrated this, whoever had betrayed him from within, and whoever was approaching with unseen forces, would learn the full extent of his resolve. As the dust settled, Emeka looked at the twins, then at Tay, and whispered, "They think they can break us, but they don't know who they're dealing with. The truth, the legacy, and the fight for these children has only just begun." And in the shadows of Lagos, unseen eyes watched, recording, calculating, and preparing for the next move, a move that promised destruction, revelation, and a shocking twist no one could foresee. The city slept, unaware, while the stage was set for an even deadlier confrontation. The audience was left on the edge. Who would strike next? And could Emeka protect the twins against the ultimate force waiting in the darkness?